Hi, everybody, and welcome to Budget with Tiffany. I'm Tiffany. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm going to do something a little different now that I'm not doing all my savings challenges and stuff. I wanted to do a few, at least one other video every week besides my weekly check-in. So, one of the first things I figured I would do is kind of a tutorial on how to use You Need a Budget, otherwise known as YNAB. This video is going to kind of cover, once you've created your account, how to set up, your budget slash plan, creating and personalizing the categories that you're going to use, setting up targets for how much you want to put aside each month, um, and setting up your checking account, savings accounts, credit cards if you use them, and then starting to assign money based on how much is in your account and everything. And then I'll do another video that will kind of walk through, how to add transactions, what you should be doing maybe on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, whenever you get paid, and on a monthly basis. And then also kind of walk through if you're using credit cards, how those work, because you need a budget. When you think about it, it makes sense, but it is kind of a little bit unique and takes some kind of getting used to. So but yeah, so the first thing I'm going to do is, before we jump into actually creating everything, I wanted to start here at the You Need a Budget website. This is the main website if you type in either youneedabudget.com or ynab.com. And I highly recommend, if you're interested in um, you know, using YNAB, or if you're already using it and you're struggling with some stuff, the website, their YouTube channel has a lot of really great resources. Um, and so, it goes through, you know, obviously the main page just kind of goes through reasons to use it, why it works, different people's, thoughts on using it, things that people have used it for, and then kind of goes through features and everything. And then up at the top, it's got a what is YNAB, so it has like the app, the method, why it's different, the 34-day trial, the ultimate get started guide, which is, I've looked at it, and actually while I was preparing to do this, I looked through their startup guide, and it was super helpful to kind of get an idea of what I wanted to make sure I covered. And then under their Learn, they have free workshops, they have a blog, they have guides, they have help centers. If you're already using YNAB, you can refer a friend. They are, especially right now with Christmas time, they are doing, you can gift a YNAB subscription. And as you can see there, if you give a 3-month subscription to YNAB, you'll get 3 months free. You can share a subscription. So like DJ and I share a subscription. But you can also, like, if you have kids, you can share a subscription with them. And then, when they move out of the house, maybe they get their own. Um, if you have a roommate or something, you could share it with them, your sibling, a friend. And then, if you have an employer that you think would be interested in utilizing it as like a, not necessarily the company using it, but the company use it, kind of recommending it to their employees, I think is what kind of this refer your employer. You've got the pricing, and then for employers, if you're an employer wanting to recommend it to employees, they do also offer a student discount. So if you're a current student, which I think you just have to have like a .edu email address. So I guess if you're like a professor or something too, you could also utilize it. I think they give you, it's either a longer trial, or they give you like the subscription for cheaper. I forget exactly how that works, but if you are interested in a trial, I do have a link in the description below that will provide you with the 34-day trial. But also, if you end up signing up for a subscription, then you'll get an extra 30 days and I will get 30 days free. So, so obviously if you're interested, I would love it if you use my link, referral link, but you don't have to. You could just come right to the website. But so when you want to create, obviously if you use my link, it'll automatically take you to start your trial. But if you did just come here, you'd just click on the start your free trial. You'd enter in your email, a password, and agreeing to their privacy policy in terms of service. You can start the free trial. You can also log in with an Apple ID or Google account. So obviously, since I already have an account, I'm not going to create a new one. So I am just going to come into the login so you can see the plan that DJ and I currently use. And then DJ used to have his own kind of separate budget that really is kind of what he uses now, where we set that $500, $450, whatever it currently is, aside each month. It used to be in his own separate budget so that he could just look at one place and only see his categories. But now he's used to seeing it and we just put it all together. So obviously if you're creating a new or starting a new account, you wouldn't already have a budget. So you would come and create the plan. And so you can say, create a plan of any kind of name. So a lot of people have a lot of fun coming up with plan names. If you have like a favorite movie or TV show, you can kind of come up with a name based on, a play on a name or something like that. So like mine is We Have a Plan. I'm a big Battlestar Galactica fan, and kind of the premise of the show is based on, that the Cylons have a plan. So I kind of just, played off of that of We Have a Plan. So since this is just a demo budget, I'm just going to kind of set it up as that. You can pick whatever currency you're in. So if you're not in the United States, or for some reason you use a currency other than the US dollar, you can pick whatever currency you're using. You can select where you want the currency placement. So if you want, most people in the US use the dollar sign at the beginning, but if you use it at the end or you don't want it, you can select that. If you're in like Europe, where you use the comma before like the cents and the period as in place of like what we in America use the comma for like dividing 1,000 from the hundreds. So like right here you can do that, and they have just a variety of different options. So whatever makes sense for you and what you're used to. And then you can also change up the date format. So like if you're in Europe and you want it to be the day first followed by the month and then the year, if you want the year first, if you want backslashes, forward slashes, whichever one it is, or you want dashes, you can pick any of those. If you want periods to delineate the date, you can do that. So you can do any of that. So you can make it customized. And the nice thing with the demo, when you create a plan, is YNAB gives you a template to use to start off with. So you don't have to come in here to a completely blank slate. A lot of the categories are categories that most people use. And then they also have category groups, which is like this bills category that you can minimize. So they have several common bills like rent or mortgage, electric, water, internet, cell phone, your kind of frequent expenses, groceries, eating out, transportation, non-monthly, meaning like home maintenance, auto maintenance, gifts, various goals that you might want to be saving up for, like vacation, education, home improvement. And then they have quality of life categories such as hobbies, entertainment, health, and wellness. So they provide you with a good starting place. And if all of these categories work perfectly for you, you could just use it exactly as is. But you can, start personalizing. So, if like DJ and I, neither of us are doing any type of education right now. So for us, it makes sense to delete this category. If you're not currently using a category, but you might want to use it in the future, like you have previous transactions or something, you can just hide it. And then down here at the bottom, it'll have hidden categories you can click on. And then if you want all of your hidden categories to be back up in your budget, you can just say show all hidden categories. Or if you just want to do unhide a category one at a time because you only want like one or two of them to be back up in your budget, you can just click on that. And since that was the only one, the hidden category option went away. Um, and then, of course, you can also double click on a category and then you can, you know, replace it to be whatever you want it to be. So, yeah, so you can make it. And then a lot of people will also add emojis. So, like for rent or mortgage, they might, pick a house or an apartment building. Guess it's not really a good apartment building looking option, so we'll just go with the house. Um, and that way, like people can make it very customizable, make it look pretty, make it easy to find a particular category. You can also, like if your rent is due on the first of the month, you can, put the due date. Some people put dashes, some people use the straight up and down mark. Um, could also, if you know how much it is, you could put that there. So that all shows here. Before I start making any other changes, up here you can also see they have these progress bar options. So we have progress bar on, which the progress bar is this little white line underneath each category. So if you turn it off, it makes the category smaller because it gets rid of the progress line, so you can see more of your budget at one time. So I used to do it without the progress bar. Well, for the longest time they didn't have the progress bar, so that's like a within the last few years new addition, um, new feature. But it is sometimes nice to be able to see more of your categories. But I do kind of like having the progress bar on. And really what happens is as you assign money to it, if you have a target, say for, so your rent, you want to set aside $1,000 a month. If you set up a target for that $1,000 a month, then as you put money into the category, um, it'll fill up the progress bar to show how far along progress wise you are at filling it up. So if you can only partly fund it with one paycheck and then you have to fully fund it with the second paycheck, it would show it being half full until you add the rest of the money. Um, so I think what I will just kind of do is quickly make some changes to the categories and category groups just to kind of show you what options you have. If you've watched my videos, you kind of have seen some of this. Um, but so I'll just kind of quickly speed through. Okay, so for bills, I basically left it the same, other than I just kind of said how much I needed to put aside. And then since I have cell phone is being due on the second of the month, I'm just going to move this up here so that's underneath rent slash mortgage. And I'm actually going to change this actually to, we'll say rent, because most people don't have both. And then I just changed transportation to fuel, and I also changed the category group from what was it before? Um, whatever it was before, I forget, to monthly spending. And then for non-monthly spending, I added car insurance, and I just made note that I want to make sure I set aside $400 biannually. Obviously with car insurance, you don't know exactly what it's going to be until you get the bill, but you have like a rough idea. And then I added a new car for goals, and then I changed, I think it was entertainment to you need a budget. down here under quality of life. So now that we have some different categories and category groups, really the next thing, and you'll kind of see the progress bar. Well, actually, we won't really see the progress bar really set up until we do the start assigning money. But really, the next thing, you don't have to do this, but I think YNAB, utilizing YNAB in this way allows you to really get the full benefit of what you need a budget can do, is to create targets for most, if not all, of your categories. So over here on the right side, we have, when you click on a category, it'll, put the name of the category, how much is in the account, which since we're just setting it up right now, there isn't anything when you've been using it for multiple months. If you had anything left over from the previous month, it'll tell you that, how much has been assigned this month, how much was cash spending out of this account, and how much is credit spending on a credit card. And then you also would see how much you've assigned this month here, how much has been spent out of the account here under activity, and then how much is in the account right now. So like if we had money assigned to the account from last month that rolled over because we hadn't spent it, it would show that there was, say $10 left over from last month. There would be $10 here under available, even though we haven't added anything into the account yet this month. Then we have target, which I'll go over in a minute. And then when you do set up targets, then one of the nice things is it'll allow you to auto assign money as, when you have money in a bank account that you want to assign, you can auto assign it based on either how much you assigned to the previous month, how much was actually spent the previous month, the average assigned, I think over the last year, not sure, it just says just historical average, and then for the amount that you assigned, and then average spent, which also is just really helpful information if you're not sure, like especially like groceries or something where you're not sure how much you've kind of on average spent and you're trying to come up with your target or a new target or something. You can kind of look back and see like how much did you actually spend on average over the last however long this is. Reset available amount just means you want to take any of the money that's been that is in the available category or column, this column, and make that go back to zero. If you want to take any money that you've assigned this month out, you can click the reset assigned amount, and then you can add notes down here. So, you know, people use it for a variety of things. I kind of use it for like my streaming services. I make note that I have my Hulu when it's due and how much I pay for currently per month. Netflix, same thing, when it's due and how much. That way I can always make sure that I am setting aside the right amount. So, but yeah, so with the target, you click the target, and really it kind of depends on what type of category you're setting up, what type of account of target you want to set up. So there's kind of, you have like a weekly option, a monthly option, yearly, and custom. So I'm going to kind of go through each of the different options that you have. So for, actually, let me come down here to groceries first to do the first one. So for groceries, you kind of do it different ways. If you're used to kind of putting aside a certain amount per week that you're going to spend, then you can do a weekly target. For me, I've kind of got a pretty good idea of how much we spend, and we rarely go over that amount in a given month. So I just do a target for a monthly amount. But for this, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to create a weekly target. So say you want to set aside $100 a week, and say that you know that you go grocery shopping on Saturday. Then you could say every Saturday, but you can pick whatever day of the week that you want it, or say it's you base it on Friday or something, whatever day that makes sense to you. So we'll just keep it on every Saturday. So then it basically just says, next month I want to set aside another $100 per week, and that's what we're going to use. There's two options. The set aside is for things like bills, subscriptions, and saving over time. It's You can use the refill up to, but for this purposes, we're going to do the set aside. So we're going to save the target. And what it will do is, so since I'm filming this on December 8th, we've already passed one Saturday. So YNAB is smart enough to recognize that. So it's kind of cool. So now, if you can kind of see, there's a white line, but it's got demarcations here to indicate that there's three lines. So it's basically saying that for the rest of this month, there are 3 Saturdays. And so you need to set aside $300 more this month, if you want to be fully funded for the next 3 Saturdays. So it's really cool. So if you have something like childcare where you want to make sure you set aside a certain amount per month or per week for childcare, if you have like a house cleaner or anything else like that you want to make sure it's per week. The one downside, they don't really have a bi-weekly option. So some people kind of, will break it up of, okay, well, I need $200 bi-weekly. So then they'll say, okay, I need $100 every week, or something like that. So I think they're talking about, it's a requested feature, so they may add it. I don't know, but then the next one is kind of the more standard, the monthly set aside, that you want to set aside a certain amount every month. So rent is a big you know clear choice for that you want to set aside. So we've indicated that we need to have $1,000, and then you can say which day of the month that you need it by. So I said I need it by the 1st, so I'm picking the 1st, and then again we're going to pick this set aside. So when I save the target, the nice thing is, so it'll say I need to save $1,000 more, and because it's I haven't filled it up yet, it'll be orange, just like this one is, indicating that I haven't set aside enough money. And obviously, since it's the 1st, or we're filming this on the 8th, I would be late with paying my rent if so like if you were setting it up mid-month, you could, instead of setting up the target in December, you could come and set it up that you want to set it up in January instead. So we'll set it up in January because I've already paid my rent for this month because it's already past the 1st. So I can make it starting in the next month. If you did start it in January or in December, but you didn't need it, you can, so let me undo what I just did. So if I did set this target up for $1,000 by the 1st of the month again, then since I've already paid it this month, I can come in here. Why is it not letting me snooze? I'm in this month. Well, normally it would let you snooze it, but I'm not sure why it's not letting me snooze it. Because I'm in the current month, because you're only allowed to snooze a target in the current month. And snoozing it basically tells it that you don't need to either fund it at all or fund it all the way for that current month, and then the next month it'll come up normal. So I'm not sure why it's not letting me snooze it, but oh well. So let's see. Another one that you could kind of use, the monthly one, is something like home maintenance, where maybe like home maintenance is one of those ones where like you never know when you're gonna need to do, actually do any home maintenance. It's one of those sporadic things. So you could do a monthly of like, say, $50 a month you want to set aside. since there's not a due date, you can just have it by the last day of the month, and you want to set aside another $50 a month. So every month it's going to say put in here $50, and you can spend from it, as needed. And then for the yearly one, I'm going to come down here to you need a budget. And so for a yearly, this costs, I forget what the actual subscription is, but let's just say it's $100. And I need it, say I started on January 1st of 2026, so I need to have it by let's see, what is this? I think it's best if you have it due the same month that you are going to actually pay it. So let's say I started paying for You Need a Budget on December 1st of 2025. So it'll charge again on December 1st of 2026. And I want to set aside another $100. So what it'll do is when I save this target is You Need a Budget will automatically calculate that I need to set aside $7.70 each month in order to meet my goal of hitting $100 by December 1st of 2026. And then the nice thing is if for some reason I didn't have enough money to set aside in December, if I come forward to January, it'll automatically recalculate and say, oh, you didn't fully fund it last month or fund it at all. So this month you need to set aside $8.34. So it automatically lets you know that in order to stay on track how much you need, and it'll update based on how much you fund it or don't fund it in any given month. So it's really nice for things like that. The other option before I go to the custom is the refill up to option. So one of the options or examples of that is something like eating out. So eating out, say you want to be able to go out to eat for lunch at work once a week, and you want to set aside, say $15 and every Monday. And this one is like, if I don't use all of the money last week, I want that any unused portion from the week before to count towards the next week. So if you go out and you only spend $10 and you have $5 left over, then you only need to set aside $10 for the second week. If you spend nothing, then you don't need to add any money for the second week. If you spend all of it, then you just need to add $15. So this can be things for like gasoline, fun money, dining out, and just says sets a target to have $15 per week on hand each month. Whatever you don't spend will get applied towards next month. So again, this is kind of saying that because there's 4 Mondays left in December, that I need to set aside $60. So it really kind of looks at month to month rather than week to week. How much you need to set aside. So, and an example for this for monthly would be fuel. So say you want to set aside $80 a month by the first day of the month, and you want to refill it up to $80. So if you only spend $75 last month or this month in gas, then next month you'll only need to add in $75 to get it back to $80. So we will save that. And you won't really see a difference when you skip forward because it'll still tell you, because it doesn't know how much you'll have left over until the month rolls over. But if you budget paycheck by paycheck or you wait till the beginning of the month to fund all of your money for the next month or something like that, this won't matter. If you're like me and I budget for the next month in the current month, then obviously it wouldn't be completely accurate. And then for a yearly example of this would be something like car insurance. So we want $400 on a yearly basis. And let's just say that um, we pay it in on April 1st, and we want to set aside $400. So is it completely, this one actually would be a better custom category. Let me actually change, we'll change this to house insurance or renter's insurance. So renter's insurance, we will do the yearly, and we want to set aside, $150, and we want to pay it on April 1st, and we want to refill it up too. So, again, we don't know exactly how much the renter's insurance, but we have like an idea. But if we don't need it all, then we want that to count towards next year. So we will do that. So again, it tells us we need $30 a month. And then the custom one, we'll go back to the car insurance because this is really better for a custom. So we want that $400. We want to fill it up to $400. So again, it doesn't say refill, but it says use what's already in the category and fill it up to $400. And then so if it's due on April 1st and we want it to repeat every 6 months, because most car insurance, if you pay it in full it's on a 6 month. So then it says, because we only have December, January, February, March, and then really April, if you count April 1st as being the due date, we need to set aside $80 each month to fill it up. So that is a custom of the set aside, or fill up to. The custom set aside would be, say something like a new car, or no, we'll do this will be Christmas gifts. So our custom set aside, and we want to set aside $75 a month by, we'll say or we'll just say by Christmas Day. And we want it to repeat every year. So it'll say, oh, I did $75 a year, or a year instead of per month. So 75 times 12 would be 900. So we want $900 a year, but you could use it monthly as well. So not saying 69.24 because we're starting this in December. But if we didn't add anything, then starting in January it'd be $75. So, something like this is great for so that you set aside money for Christmas every year, starting right in January, so that when November, December rolls around and you're starting to buy presents, depending on, some people start buying presents much earlier, you've got the money. But the nice thing is you can spend from this category and it doesn't detract from your goals. So then we already did the fill up to with the car insurance. So the other option is we'll use new car in this custom, and is this have a balance of. So it's for long-term savings. You want to reach this amount by a specific time and refrain from spending it until you reach it. And you don't actually have to have a certain deadline. So if I come in here and I say I want to have a balance of, and I know, ideally I would like to buy a car for no more than $15,000, then I can say I want to have a balance of, and if I don't pick a due date and I save it, it'll just say I want $15,000 in here eventually. that'll be what it is. As I add money in here, it'll progress, but there won't be a deadline for it. But if I know, um, something like a vacation where, say, we're going to on a trip and I want to set aside $2,000, have a balance, and we're gonna go in, October of 2026. Then when I save that, it'll tell me that I need to set aside a certain amount per month. Um, so they work similarly, but one just says you need it eventually. It doesn't officially tell you you have to set aside money this month, but so you can kind of fund it as you have the ability, or how much ever you want to do in that month or something. Whereas if you put a date that it's due, then it'll tell you how much you need to set aside per month, and it'll have this orange like, hey, you haven't set aside enough yet. So those are the different targets. I'm going to go through and real quick add targets to all the other ones, just so that I can kind of fully show you how some of the other features work. So let me fast forward. Okay, so now I have targets on everything, and one of the nice things I like about you need a budget when you set up targets on everything, um, then it will tell you how much you are underfunded. So by not selecting any of my categories, I can see that based on my categories, I would need to bring in $2,573.37 in the month of December in order to fully fund all of my categories. And then if I come over to January, it'll say that I need $2,857.50. Part of that's going to be that, we got all of the groceries, all of the eating out, because it's accounting for 5 weeks of groceries and 4 weeks of eating out. And then also because we haven't added any money into categories in the previous month, some of our categories are telling us we need a little bit extra to stay on target. So now that we have all of that, the next thing really to do is to add an account. So right now we don't have any account set up. Oops. So you do have the option to add a linked account where you actually connect, your checking account, savings account, or credit card directly to You Need a Budget. I do this on most of my accounts. But you don't have to if either safety wise, security wise, you just don't feel comfortable doing it, although they have, really great security. I've never had an issue. Some people just prefer manually doing everything, for, you know, their own personal need, or keeping track of everything, that by manually entering it and reviewing everything themselves, it like keeps them on track, more accountable versus it coming in via an import from the bank account. So completely up to you. I do have linked accounts in my personal plan, so you can kind of see how that works when I, through my videos. But obviously for this, I'm just going to add an unlinked account. So I can say that it is checking. And I'm going to say, so they have different options. So they have the cash account, so your checking, savings, cash. Cash, if you are a cash stuffer and you want to use, you need a budget to keep track of the cash that you are cash stuffing in your envelopes, and you actually use physical cash, then you can have a cash category. I did this when I was using actual cash. But some people, I think like Eva, she just says, okay, I took $2,000 out of the my checking account. I just show a transaction of taking $2,000 out of my checking account. and she doesn't keep track of it in You Need a Budget. And then when she deposits money back into her bank account, she adds it as an inflow into her bank account. So any cash that she has in her, envelopes and stuff, she doesn't. I don't think she keeps track of in You Need a Budget. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think she does. Um, but when I did it, was using actual cash. I had a cash, or still have a cash account, and I would just knew that all the cash in my envelopes should match what's in the cash account. Um, you have your credit card, line of credit if you have some type of line, and then if you want to add, I would suggest not starting out adding mortgages and loans and other type of tracking accounts, but they do have to add a mortgage, a auto loan, a student loan, a personal loan, medical debt, and then other types of debt. And then you can also track accounts like your assets, 401k, things like that, and other liabilities. But for right now, while you're first getting used to this, I would focus mostly on checking, savings, cash if you have a cash account and want to use that, and then, credit cards. So right now we're just going to do a checking account, and then you just need to know what is the current actual balance. So we're going to say that we have $4,000 in our checking account. And since we're not importing it, it just sets up everything. So now we can see I have a checking account that has $4,000 in it. And then this is the ledger. It looks like a checkbook ledger. It's got the date. So this is our starting balance as of today. So like if you log into your bank account and you see you have $4,000, that's what you put, whatever it actually is. And then when you come over to the plan, I can see now that I have $4,000 that's ready to assign. But before I do anything with that, I'm going to add a savings account. Oops. I want to add unlinked savings. For savings up here, this will be an on-plan account. Any checking, savings, or cash account up here under cash accounts will be an on-plan, meaning any money that you put or that's in here, you will need to budget in your plan. You can also do put a savings account down here in the tracking, and it would be an off plan, and basically just means you're tracking it, but you wouldn't budget the money. So has benefits. I have my emergency fund savings account as an off, a tracking account. So I don't actually budget because it's all just an emergency fund. If I actually needed to use it, I would have a transaction from my emergency fund to my checking account. And from that point, once it moved into my checking account, I would budget the money. But I don't necessarily feel like I need to have a account or a budget category that is, emergency fund, but I did for the longest time. So completely up to you how you want to do it. But we're just, for the sake of this, we're going to do savings. And let's just say we have $2,000 in our savings account. And then we're going to add a credit card. And our balance, I think if you added in, we can update it if I do this wrong. It's been a long time since I've set up a new credit card. So I think we'd say our account is, let's just say it's $353. Let's see if I did this right. Yep, okay. So it's showing that we have a negative $353, which means I've spent $353 on my credit card that I haven't paid off yet. So now that we come over to the plan, I can see I've got $6,000 ready to assign, which is the $4,000 from the checking account, the $2,000 from the savings account. The credit card, they created a new category group called credit card payments. And our credit card, which is named credit card because that's what we named it over here, says that I need to pay $353 more to pay off the current balance. And if we don't have enough money to assign it, then we would want to create a debt payoff target. So if you have a current credit card balance that you're going to be paying off over a long period of time, you can create a payoff balance, and you can say that I want to pay it off by a certain date, or I want to pay a specific amount each month. So, if you wanted to be able to pay, you knew that the minimum payment was $20 a month or something, and you wanted to be able to set aside, $35 a month, then you'd set that target, and you'd need to add $35 to the credit card each payment or each month. And obviously, if you added more, you'd pay it down faster. So, and then if you wanted to pay it off by a certain date, so we want to pay it off, say, by January of 2027, and we save the target, it'll tell us that we need to put in $25.22 per month to pay it off by the payoff date of January of 2027. So, you can kind of do it either way. And then, oops, I didn't mean to do that. The other option is, if you don't carry credit card, you pay your credit card balance in full every month, then with the money that you have in your account, you would just want to come in here and assign the full $353, so that now it's green because it matches how much is on the account over here. So that shows that we have enough. So I like to pay my credit cards in full every month, but obviously sometimes you can't. Let me also come in here and add a transaction for today of groceries. Charges the groceries, and we have 102. Okay, so now that I added that, because we haven't assigned anything to our groceries category yet, it's showing me that I have a $102 of overspending in December. It's not been cleared, so it's showing here under uncleared, but our working balance has now gone up to 455, which is what it's showing here. So now we can come in here and we see that we have 2 overspent. It's really overspent because we haven't assigned any of the money yet. So sometimes what I recommend for people, if you have money in a savings account that was probably saved for something in particular, it might be an emergency fund, it might be, that you've set aside, money towards your goals, like vacation or something, that you have that money earmarked for. So I would recommend budgeting out the savings first, so that you don't accidentally assign your savings money to other category, or to another category that's not actual savings. So let's say we had $1,000 that we've assigned towards our new car. So now we can see, we just need $14,000 more eventually. And let's say our vacation, we've set aside $500, even though we only need $181.82 for the month to get us to our goal of having $2,000 by October of 2026. And then the other $500 is going to go towards home improvement. So that adds up. Here you can see that we've assigned 2,000 and we have available 2,000, and that equals our savings. So some people will kind of do that they'll have, one of the category groups be the what aligns with a particular account. So, sometimes people will say that should be, equal to savings or something like that, just so that they know that it's whatever that's added account. And then the nice thing is, you can see, since we added more than we needed to for vacation, then we need less the next month. So, and then now we just have the $3,647, and that is the $3,975 or $4,000 minus the $353 that we'd already signed to credit card. So we can see that we have this 2,500 or $25 that was overspent, and it is red because it is something that we overspent in cash. So if we, as you can see, we have $3,647 ready to assign in December. If we didn't pay, fund this $25 and we go forward to January and we budgeted this in January, you can see that we actually have $25 less and ready to assign, because you need a budget says you've overspent in a cash category. You need to, we need to take it out, because otherwise you're going to overdraw your account. So we want to make sure that we add the $25 there. And then since our rent, and I still don't know why I can't snooze that, but we've already paid the rent. I'm not sure why I can't do, but we've already paid our cell phone, so we don't need to do this. And we've already paid the electric because it's the 8th of the month. We've already paid those out of our checking account. And then the how you need a budget recommends you add money into, assign the money in your account is so after we've already kind of talked about the credit cards and the savings, they have 5 different questions. The first question is, what does your money need to do before you get paid again? So depending on how often you get paid, will dictate the answer to that question. If you get paid every week, then you just need to make sure you put enough money aside for things that are going to happen between now and when you get paid next week. If you get paid every other week, then you have 2 weeks worth of stuff. So let's go. Okay, so we are going to get paid. So this is the 8th. So let's say we get paid on Fridays, and we get paid every Friday. So our Friday would be 12th. So our internet is not due until the 15th. So technically we don't need to fund it. Groceries, we haven't assigned anything, and we already went grocery shopping. So we've overspent our groceries. And kind of how credit cards work is that, actually, let me kind of show you. So as you can see, we have $353 up here that we have available, because the balance that we had when we started was $353. I assigned that to pay so that I could pay the credit card in full. But now with that grocery bill or grocery payment that we just charged to the account over here is $455, but we still only have $353. So what happens if I add the 102 here? Let me get this. Then when I hit enter, this goes back to 0 because now I don't have any money, but this up here goes up to the 455. What you need a budget does is it says, okay, you spent $102 in groceries, but we're going to move the $102 that you spent up here to the activity on your credit card, therefore increasing the balance that you owe on your credit card. But you also have set aside the $455 because it moved the money that you assigned to groceries up to your credit card payments. So it's a little weird just because it's different, but it's just like, I know a lot of cash strappers have a back to the bank envelope or something, where if they charge something to their credit card, they take the money out of their credit card or out of their groceries envelope, and they put it into the back to the bank envelope so that they can put it towards their credit card payment. It works the same way. It's like you're just moving the cash from the groceries category to the credit card category or credit card envelope. It's a digital envelope, so it works the same way. And then this is also saying, okay, so you funded it for 1 week, but you still need to set aside 198 more this month. We said that we go to the grocery store on Saturdays. We're going to get paid on Friday before we go to the grocery store. So I don't technically need to set aside any more money to put towards groceries before we get paid. The eating out, we want to do $15 each week because we want to go out to eat potentially this week. And then let's say we're not sure when we're going to need to get fuel, but we might need to get fuel before we get paid again. So let's do half of our fuel. So now we have $3,465. Then we come down to our, and obviously in a normal budget, you'd have a lot more categories, but so then for our non-monthly, this is where kind of setting up those targets. The second question is, what larger or more infrequent spending should you prepare for? So these are things like your sinking funds, your non-monthly expenses, things like that. So we have that we need to set aside $80. So let's go ahead and do our $80. We'll do the $50 for our home maintenance, our $30 for renter's insurance, and our $69.24 for Christmas. And then our quality of life goals, we'll do the 25 for hobbies, the 770 for you need a budget, and our $50 for health and wellness. And then the third question is what money, or is there any money or categories that you should set aside to help cover next month's spending? So, you can look at January and say, okay, it might make sense to set aside a fourth of the rent each paycheck for next month. Our other bills we can pay out later. Must be, what did I do with it? Oh, I was like, why is that? But I forgot it's because I did a refill up to $50, so it won't show that I need more money until it rolls over. And then the fourth question is, what goals do you want to prioritize? So this would be things like, the new car, the vacation, the home improvement. So even though we allocated the $2,000 that we already had in savings, maybe we want to be able to put some more money aside. So, say, so we've got this home improvement project that we want to do by December of 2026. So maybe let's go ahead and add an extra $500. And let's say we want to add another $500 to the new car. So you can start getting a jump ahead on your various savings goals. And then, this is obviously not the best budget with the amount of money that I did, but just making this up on the fly. So, and then the final question is, are there any changes that you need to make? Well, obviously we just set up the new budget, so there's probably not, but maybe as you're doing this, you realize that, there's something you forgot to include or something like that. Or as you've been using, you need a budget for longer. Maybe there's a new expense that you want to set aside for, or I get, inspiration from a lot of other YouTubers that I watch, categories that they have that I never would have thought of. Or, like DJ's parents both turned 65 next year, so we're setting aside money to get them a nice gift each, because it's, kind of a bigger birthday and stuff. So, or maybe you got graduation or something, kids graduating, or college expenses and stuff that, you or young enough that you got like a gazillion weddings, or like now, thankfully, I have very few weddings that I have to go to. Just so like ebb and flow of like where you are in your life, what categories you might need to add or delete or, hide for right now. So, since we still have money, we can, clearly come in here and let's just go ahead and set aside the $80 for the internet so that we're fully funded. And then let's set aside the 198 for the rest of the month for groceries. We'll add the 45 for the rest of the month for eating out, and we'll add the extra $40 for fuel. And just, kind of like giving every dollar a job. You want to assign every dollar that you have that's been assigned to you or that you have in your account to something. That's where, if you have more, which is great, you can create new goals or start funding goals ahead of time. If you don't have enough, you have to prioritize which goals or expenses that you need to save. So let's just, for the sake of this, we'll do 1,000. Oops. And then let's see. We'll just do that. Just to get it all out of there. Yeah, so I think, again, I wrote down notes of what I wanted to make sure I covered, but it was very made up as I went. So I hope it makes sense. And then what I will do is my next video, which will probably be next week, I will go over, how to add more in depth, how to add transactions, how those transactions impact the budget, things that you should be doing like reconciling and things like that. So yeah, so I will be back later this week with my weekly check-in, and then next week with part 2 of how to use You Need a Budget. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.